Hello everyone. Okay, so this part of the stage, this is when you've completed or you're in the middle of stage 3. Stage 3 really focuses on things, I call these accessories, things in the composition that are simple to draw, but they're in front of forms, they're small, they're minor moments. They actually play a role in the composition, they may play a major role there, but they're minor aspects to the drawing process, and you save those till the end, and you can use all the other objects in order to line those up. So it's really easy to put those in after the fact. It's hard to use the metaphor, build a house around a window. That's the window, and then you build the house. I've already built my house, and now I'm just going to install my window in the hole that's already there. So that's kind of putting this in. The other thing that I just completed are these two little coffee pots. Those were very challenging. Even though they're small, they cause a lot of frustration. This guy and this guy, because they're on an angle, they have tapered sides, and they're going away from me in space. In this case, this one's really small. Closer to me, it's far in the back. And if you look at this here, what I did was I measured the height of the ellipse that's facing me and the width of the ellipse, and I compared it to something, and then I put that rectangle there. And I did the same thing with the one behind it instead of drawing that in perspective, because it's really tricky because it's already tapered and it's going to go against perspective. It's going to be really difficult to take that approach. So I decided to take the approach of just relying on sighting and measuring and drawing the box, and then getting the circle, or making the horizontal line and the vertical line for the ellipse, and then making my ellipse here, and then making my ellipse there. And I just made 2 ellipses, and I connected the sides, and it was complete. But it took a while for me to locate it and to make sure that the size and scale was right, because these two should appear to be somewhat the same size. This one was tricky too because it goes back in space, so I kind of did the same thing here. And if you see, it's on a diagonal, it's not on a vertical. This thing here is on a diagonal because it's in space, or it's the side is tapered, so the front kind of angles up. So you have to take that in consideration, and you have to sight that angle, and that angle is going to dictate the perpendicular central axis line. And once you get those 2 angles, then you can just build everything up from there. So that's fine. But what I'm going to do now in this video is this tissue, from my point of view, even though you're kind of looking at it on a straight angle, I see it on a bit of a different angle. I'm going to show you how to draw that, and I'll show you how to draw this. The only thing I haven't added on yet, and I did in a previous video, was the spout and the handle. But I have made a video about drawing a handle on a coffee mug. You can apply to that. And I also made it, and then you've already watched the video about the spout. So I'll do that on my own. Right now, this video, I might break it in 2 and do this first. So basically, this is the view that I have, kind of like this, that you're looking at right now. That's the view that I have. This is the tissue. I'm going to draw this tissue. I've already put the tissue box in. I already have this little part figured out. All I have to do is round my corners, because you can see that these corners are rounded. That's super easy. You just round the corners. You know that about perspective. But how do I draw this? It's not a straight line. It's not a geometric form. It's not an ellipse. It's not, what is it? So how do you simplify it? You build it with straight line construction, and I'll show you how to do that. But everything can be derived from a rectangle, whether it be a flat rectangle or a volumetric rectangle. But this right here, if you look at it flat, straight on, that's a rectangle. You get the height, you get the width, and then you just carve away the lines. It's really easy. It's really simple. And you can also measure. You might be like, how do you measure this? You can measure, see this fold right here? You could measure this and count how many times it counts into the form, because you can measure this and compare it to that, since you have that size there. So you can get this pretty darn accurate, even though it's this wavy line. And a lot of people will just look at this and be like, it looks good to me. I want you to break this down, analytically draw it, sight, measure, figure it out. So I believe, like this. gonna curate my, you know what, I've started a new one. This one's kind of cool. There we go. There's a nice curve to it. So basically that's what I see and that's what I'm going to draw, but I can't have you look through my eyes. So I have to see it as this. And it's basically way over here. But I'm going to draw it right here because it's the same kind of approach. Okay. First thing, I'm going to round my corners here. Okay, that's done. Second thing I'm going to do, it comes from an opening in the middle. I already have my middle established. Or my point established, so I just drew a line there. And it looks like it's a small little gap of an opening, so I'll just widen the line in both directions. Okay, so there's my opening. And it looks like it doesn't go all the way to the edge, it just kind of goes about right here and right here. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be working with, and this is where the tissue is going to come up from. So what I'm going to do is draw a straight line from the center up, a vertical line. And I'm going to draw another vertical line here. Those two lines, that doesn't represent the tissue yet, but those two lines kind of give me a guide of where it goes back into the form. Now, if I measure, the tissue actually comes out, if I angle it out, it comes way out past that point. And so does this, this comes way out past that point. So from my angle, which is here, I'm going to measure the width of this tissue and compare it to maybe the width of this. Maybe it's the same. It's definitely not, but as I'm measuring this, my pencil, when I checked to see if it was close to this, it wasn't. It went about this far over. And because it's a tissue, I don't have to be dead on accurate. I can just mark it and be like, that's about the width of all the tissue. So that's nice. I'm not going to center it on the center line because I don't know exactly where to put it yet. So the next thing I'm going to do is, I'm going to angle this towards you again. I'm going to drop a line down here and drop a line down here, mark it, and then drop lines down and then check to see if my width is similar. And if it is, I'm good to go. I really have to mark this with something. There you go. So I can turn it back to the same spot. Okay, so this little point here is probably moved quite a bit, but it's right on the edge here, which is like right here. If I were to drop a line, so that's where it is for me, I'm going to draw a line straight up from that point. Okay, so that represents that point here. I'm going to drop a line down here, which goes right there, which was about right there. I'm going to draw a line straight up. Okay, now where does this end here? I am just going to make a straight line across. I don't care about the diagonals of the box yet because this is doing its own thing. So I'm going to go straight across, but I just need to measure the height of this and compare it to that. When I compared it to that, the tip of my pencil came up to about here, and my thumb was down here. So that is my height. From here to here. so it's not as high as I thought, which is fine. And I draw a line across. So remember, these two lines tell me where it goes back into the box. This line and this line is my widest part, and this is my highest part. I'm going to leave those lines in. I don't have to erase them, unless they drive you nuts and you can't understand what you're doing. Don't erase them. I will erase these smudges though. Okay, so now straight line construction. I'm going to turn this sideways. If you break this down, your brain will tell you, like, oh, that is a soft form. That is a paper napkin. It's very fluid and curvilinear, and so your brain's going to tell your arm to write that, your hand to draw that. Don't listen to your brain. It is your eyes that know the truth. Your eyes use the system called sighting, and you're going to sight angles. And if you look at this, look at the angle compared to my pencil. That is straight as an arrow. That is super straight. Check out this angle. Actually, no, I'll do it here. Check out this angle compared to my pencil. Super straight. That is clearly a curve, but you can exaggerate that into a straight line. Straight line, straight line, straight line, straight line. Hold on, I'm doing this backwards. Straight line. All those are straight lines. And you apply those straight lines in, and then after you put the straight lines in, then you just make rounds and you're done. That's how fast it can be. I'm going to turn this back so I can see it. All right. So that line goes about right here. The highest point is about right here. So this goes, I'd say, and I'm going to sight the angle. I'm actually going to turn this towards me. I had to have it angled for the camera, but I need it. I need this plane parallel to that plane so I can see what the heck I'm doing. All right, that's better. I'm going to sight this angle here. Well, what I did just there, I found the high point and I dropped a line straight down, which is called a vertical alignment. And I aligned it with something that already existed, which is right here. And the vertical line went right to the center of that part. So I just went straight up and I marked a line because I knew that that's where this is going to come back around. And so right now I'm just going to sight lines. That's this line here. So far, that straight line construction, you can kind of see what I'm doing. I think I'm going to use a softer pencil here. Only so you can see what I'm doing at home. All right, so I have that. So I can probably ride that top line. It basically dips down, but hold on a second. There's another high point here. And it's almost on the same horizontal line. So I'm using a perfectly flat line and I'm putting it right on the top of that thing. And I'm seeing if they both share the same, they both touch it. And they basically do. I think it's just a little, no, they both touch it, which is kind of surprising. So if I go straight up from here, there's a bit of a dip. It curls. So when I put this in, all I do is curl that. But for now, I'm putting it in a straight line. Oh, that's why. I mistook that line for the furthest line out. My bad. And after that, I'm just going to connect this right down to where the tissue should go in, and this already goes in here. So that's basically my tissue. It looks like kind of like a mushroom cloud or something. So what, right here it starts to curl in, so I think I might even do a straight line for that one. Because I just exaggerated it in one straight line, but I decided to break it up into two. I could break it up into three, we'll see. And then the other thing is I'm gonna turn it sideways. There's these straight lines that are in the interior of the form. They're usually gonna be where these points are, where these folds in the fabric are, and they come straight down somehow, some way. So that's what I'm gonna look at now. There's like a perfect straight line. Actually, I don't know if you guys can see this, but do you see that line right here? That's a perfect straight line. It goes right down into here. How awesome is that? And it's good to have a good light source. It helps you see what the heck you're trying to do. So all I do is connect this to here. There's another straight line that goes all the way down to about right here. I'm going to cite that. There. There's another straight line. It's almost a vertical. It's a little bit, it's not 12, it's a little bit to the left of 12 o'clock. And it goes right at the same point with that guy. And now I'm ready to curve. I did all, that's called straight line construction. You're building up this organic form with straight lines. You're exaggerating everything into a straight line. And the reason why that's so important is because you can measure these shapes and compare it to other shapes. If you're really breaking this down, doing a value study, for example, you can't, if you put a curved line in, there's nothing to measure. You can't really pinpoint a certain area. Here you can. All right. So from this point on, now I just do a visual analysis of what I'm looking at. So if I turn it sideways, once again, that's what I'm seeing. See how the curve that is there now? Now I can start to put the curves in. So this would curve more. So I'm going to draw it from my point of view because it's a little different. There's a subtle curve here. It's not even a big curve. It's so subtle. Points. Actually, I think I'm going to do this. The more you study it and the curves, and then you're drawing as you normally would draw, but you have this guide to go by, so much easier and accurate. And because this is contour line and it's not a value drawing, you're going to have to be creative with your line weight. So in some cases you can kind of do a shape. So there's a lot of shapes in here, what I call shapes. If you outline where the creases are and you just do like a nice little like outline of that shape or that form, a lot of straight lines. I can't go or talk enough about that. You can outline this shape. you can outline this shape. You're basically outlining the shapes of value, and you're outlining where creases fold, and that's where value shifts are as well. So you kind of see I'm starting to put some detail in, but it's only with contour lines, so it's going to be frustrating probably in the beginning. So I'm taking out all of the straight lines that I put in, and I'm kind of making it more of a loose hand approach. Which is deliberate because it kind of shows the delicacy of the edge, and kind of the shaky line actually supports the texture of the form. And I'm starting to concentrate down here a little bit because there's a lot of tension down there, because that's where it's being pulled from. So there's a lot of creases that kind of generate down at that bottom part. So again, I'm just going to leave it at that. That's fine. That's all I need to do for the tissue. I'm just suggesting there's a tissue there using straight line construction, and then I can start to put the curvilinear line in. So I'll leave the rest for later once I do the line weight a little bit more and I start to clarify this box. If I want to put more detail in, I can right here. There's a halfway point there, and then these are kind of rounds, but I don't want you to do that until the very, very end if it's necessary. I'm going to make a separate video about the straws. That should be a lot shorter because it's fast and easy.